Hello, Steve White, Trickway89 for Steve Arts 89. Well, I want to talk about that comment that Robert Kaczynski said in Special Effects magazine. Now, this was released, it's a mainstream publication, it was released to promote Section 31 coming out in a week or so. And this is not something that they weren't watching. This is not like some little website and they didn't know what he said. You know, they approved this comment and what it says. Now, it's two comments that were interesting. The first one's about how much he loves Star Trek and what a good experience he had, which is nice. And I'm looking at trekmovie.com, and they said that that experience may have been a once-in-a-lifetime experience for the actor and fan, but he knows that a movie trying to attract a new audience, which focuses on the nefarious Section 31 Black Ops group, could run into resistance, he told Special Effects. I'm terrified of how it's going to be received because it's not the Trek people want. The fact he said that, the fact they allowed that to be printed, the fact they're letting that into the public conversation, and they're acknowledging that they're not making the Star Trek fans want, instead of trying to gaslight us all into saying that, oh no, this is the Star Trek people want. It's just you people are a bunch of racists and bigots, that's why you don't like it. When, you know, they're lumping us real critics in with those people, because we know Star Trek invented woke and Star Trek should be woke and we support that. There's other people, racist bigots, but they threw us all in together and said, no, you just hate the new show because you're like that. Now they're saying, oh, no, they've hated all the shows. Because he goes on to say, the Trek that people want, the Trek that we all want, and he puts himself in that group, is just 1,000 more episodes of TNG. But then he's a bit condescending the way he says that. He says, everyone's always furious that they're not getting more TNG, whilst at the same time, when TNG came out, everybody hated it, which is not true. So this is going to come along, and it's going to feel, not going to feel like any Trek we've ever seen before. So he's perpetuating this myth that people hated Next Generation when it came out. It's not true. There was one little group who specifically wanted an original series with the original cast, which was never going to happen because they were too expensive and they were only going to make films. So they were totally wasting their time and just in denial of reality. And they got some press, they got an article that said they don't want a Next Generation, and that gets dragged up all the time. And people say, see, they didn't like Next Generation either, and that's great. It's like, no, I was there. We loved Next Generation from the first episode. We weren't sure before we saw what it was going to be and how it was going to work, but once we saw it, we realised it's just a new show, 80 years on from the movies, 100 years on from the original series, far enough away to be futuristic, close enough to be relatable, unlike the, 31st century Discovery universe Kurtzman created, which is so far removed, it's not relatable. You can't depict Earth in the 32nd century have any believability, and the technology is just like fantasy. It just does not work. This era works. So yes, if he's talking about the Next Generation era, people just want more of that. Yes, they do, and that's what it should be. We can grow along with it. There's been 20 or so years since the last show ended. There's enough of a gap that they could change a bunch of things, and it doesn't have to be another Next Generation series like Picard Season 3. It can be Legacy. It can be just another ship in that area, in that era, and that would work. So he's right, and that's what people want. But he's condescending about it like they just want the same thing over and over again. No, we want new shows in that era, and they can be very different as long as they are still Star Trek. Because what happened is everyone had a bit of anxiety about like Deep Space Nine, it's on a space station, or Enterprise is a prequel, But as soon as we saw them and realised they're still Star Trek, we loved them. It wasn't an issue. Discovery, we saw it and we said, that's not Star Trek. And that's what happened, and they may have gained a small group of fans. Mostly didn't really like Star Trek, but most Star Trek fans don't like the show. That wasn't successful, and they just try and gaslight and say, oh no, it's not that the show's bad, it's just the fandom. They hate everything. They hated the original series, they hated Next Generation, they hate everything, and it's just not true. And this whole attempt to go after a new audience, I don't understand it. I mean, you've got a group that already supports the show, and you can either have that group go see the film 10 times and buy all the merchandise, or you can try and appeal to a new group of people that you theorise exists, and you might get maybe 10 people to go watch the film once and maybe buy a little bit of merchandise. It's not the same. Just embrace the fan base, accept what you have, budget for it, and then just try and break out of that like some of the shows and some of the movies did. And you can't go wrong, whereas just constantly trying to go after a new audience and alienating the existing audience who doesn't come along for the ride and stop supporting the show like they used to because you keep slapping them in the face is just stupidity. And this guy trying to gaslight, I don't know if he's ignorant or if he's actually trying to gaslight on behalf of, Bad Robot and Secret Hideout and try to act like Next Generation wasn't popular or was hated, when neither was true. It was embraced from the beginning, everyone loved it, and all the other shows, there was a little anxiety with the announcements always, but then once we saw the show, we saw it was still Star Trek, then we started complaining, some people did complain that it was not changed enough. So, there's always going to be some people that complain, yeah, that's true, but it's not the majority, and it's just kind of like film criticism, and it's kind of like what we have now with YouTube now, where people are just going to find something to complain about. So on that minute, superficial level, yeah, he's right, but everything else is wrong. And this is just an attempt to gaslight and try and act like Discovery wasn't as bad as what it was. But I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think of this whole situation and this quote. I'm surprised they allowed it in there and that they're acknowledging it's not the Star Trek people want, and that they're still doing it when we've seen it's the wrong thing. Make Star Trek for Star Trek fans, and it will be successful. It's that simple.